Welcome to A Talk, where we discuss all things African and beyond. We look at things in an African perspective and incorporate some global aspects to it. Let's see what we have today. Before we proceed, please like, share, comment, leave your feedback at the bottom so that we keep the dialogue going. Now let's talk about the South African immigration. Is this a crisis or sensationalism? Since time immemorial, people have been migrating around the world. It's not a new thing. In prehistoric times, people moved south from North Africa. Later, some moved north again. And during the colonial era, people migrated mainly from Europe to different parts of the world. During the independence era, people migrated to other countries, organized themselves, and fought wars against the colonizers to reclaim their land back. Even post-independence, migration happens. It's ongoing. We see it every day. So what's the problem at hand today in South Africa? Let's have a closer look. There's been an increase in undocumented immigrants, unemployment, crime, and corruption. These, coupled with a poorly regulated immigration system and deterioration in standards of living, have led to an increased sentiment of hate towards foreign nationals in South Africa, especially black Africans. They have been accused of fueling unemployment and crime. Here we discuss whether this is true or it's just sensationalism. How much has the average non-South African impacted on the life of black South African negatively? This presentation tries to look whether it's socio-economic, socio-political factors at play or whatever else. And it's not a know-it-all exhaustive document. It's just about provoking thinking, constructive dialogue, and maybe coming up with ideas as to what could be done to help solve the problem. Let's look at the statistics. About 61 million is the total number of people living in South Africa today, of which 5% are immigrants, making up about 2.9 million. And unemployment is 35% approximately. So what's at play here? Is it the immigration which is causing South Africa to have an unemployment rate or not? Let's look at the immigrant population and their asylum seeker status. Of the 2.9 million people, about 250,000 seek asylum, which is about 8.6%, which tells us that the bulk of them get absorbed into the system one way or another. And the highest number of immigrants are from Zimbabwe, 24%, while the lowest is from Eswatini, 2%. Yet Eswatini is right in South Africa. And Ethiopia has 25% of the asylum-seeking population, while Uganda has 2%, and the rest in the middle there. Note that the highest number of immigrants are from Zimbabwe, but only 6% of those people seek asylum. Where is everyone else going? Now let's look at immigrants and crime. The Department of Correctional Services reports that 7.5% of prisoners are non-South Africans. So that tells us that more than 9 out of every 10 crimes committed are committed by South African nationals. This implies that if all immigrants had a job, the unemployment rate would still be at 30% because they make up about 5% of the population. And if all immigrants didn't commit crimes, which means 92% or more of the convicted people would still be in prison there. So are immigrants a major contributor or not? What's happening here? Let's have a few reflections. Given the statistics, do we have a real cause to be fighting each other? Who is to blame for this unemployment crisis? Where does the buck stop? Who is responsible for making sure we all get a fair slice of the cake? Thambe Silvangayo linanyama. What would Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, or Joshua Nkomo be saying if they were alive today, given the amount of sacrifices they made trying to unite Africans and trying to put Africans in a better position in life? Let's think about that. Is the economy designed to serve us or something else? Let's keep going forward. So what can we do? Let's strengthen borders. Let's document everybody. Let's create job centers. Let's stamp out corruption. Let's update the visa and naturalization process. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. How do we strengthen borders? We increase surveillance, establish independent bodies that monitor the actions of officials at ports of entry. Who will guard the guards? We need a dog squad to sniff out drugs, because these are one of the major issues the average South African is talking about today. And penalties for officials who engage in the wrong things should be the first port of call if there is going to be any change. And they should be handled by an independent body, which could include a public jury, whereby an average person of good standing in the public can be called in to say, what do you think about this? Guilty or not guilty? What's the appropriate penalty? This would help a lot. The transporters themselves, they are a stakeholder in this. In aviation, if an aeroplane brings someone with the wrong papers into a country, that flight, should I say that airline, gets fined. What are we doing with those people who are bringing the undocumented people? Because they have a part to play too. Is there a register of who does what and when and what the penalties are? This need to be implemented. Let's document everybody. Why? You can't have control of things you don't know. If everyone is documented, whether they are permanent or whatever, you can identify them much easier than when they're not documented. If there are branches in areas where there are large numbers of immigrants, where people can seek documentation, that will be very helpful. Because if the place is inaccessible, then people are less likely to come forward to get documented. Campaigns can be organized to say, come forward, come out of the shadows, get documented. And whoever is making an application is the one who's pay for it. So the government has nothing to lose. In fact, that would create employment for people. And smart identity documents with conditions should be issued to those who have made an application, and they should be specific to their stage of the application process. For instance, when you've submitted an application, you've got to have a document which speaks to that, attached to it. So technically, you are in the country legally until a decision has been made about your application. That's whether you're granted whatever you've applied for or not. The outcome and processing systems should be designed in a fair and transparent manner. It should be time specific so that people are not held at limbo. And by applying, people should commit to the fact that if their application is rejected, then they will be required to leave the country. There's got to be an appeal process which is clear and transparent, and this has to be funded by the applicant themselves. Essentially, we are driving business. This is a good business opportunity. Create job centers. Why do we need job centers? Employers can submit the vacancies which they cannot fill. Job seekers can submit their expression of interest. These job centers are actually linking employers and potential employees. In the event that there are no takers, then the job can be offered to a non-citizen. This is transparent and clear, driving business in a fair way. And when it's granted to that non-citizen, there should be checks and balances in place. Is this person doing the job they have applied for or been employed to do? Is the employer also complying with the conditions in place? This should be on an ongoing fashion, these random checks, so that the level playing field is not tilted to the point whereby the employee is exploited or is actually doing something other than the job they claim to have been employed for. What else can we do? Corruption is a major issue. So there's got to be stronger anti-corruption laws with teeth. And government functionaries should be the first to lead by example. They can't be doing the wrong things and expect everyone else to follow that. And all anti-corruption systems should be independent of political influence. Because as long as there is politics in the middle, then it's going to fall apart. Export and strategize. All minerals and resources in general need to be processed on shore and then sold as value-added products. This will help create jobs. Another avenue of export would be education. Export education. The facilities are available. They need to be improved, and then have education as one of the major exports, whereby extraterritorials have a particular fee which they pay and get trained in whatever field, and then those are the people who make up the good chunk of immigration population when they complete their studies, because they are skilled and they are great potential wealth of knowledge which can be invested into the land. Investors should participate in community health and manpower development projects. That is why we are trying to discourage the foreign direct investment, FDI. It always favors the investor. And in FDI, there is a lot of corruption involved, including bribes and stuff. So once somebody has paid a bribe, how do you even hold them to account to say you've got to play by the rules when they didn't play by the rules in the first place to get the license to do whatever business they're doing? What else can we do? Let's engage other stakeholders. What is SADC doing about this immigration crisis? How about AU? Do we even hear them talk about it? Where's civil society? Human rights groups, where are they? How about the traditional leaders? Social solutions often come from traditional leaders. Nothing is better than the good old traditional wisdom. The source countries should be held to account. If someone from another country is granted a service of sorts, it's simple and straightforward. Build the embassy. If they don't pay, then they meet consequences which should be put in place. And everybody, before they engage in any diplomatic issue, they should commit to that. They will look after the people who are in whatever country. That will help solve all these problems and reduce the impact on the local budget. Update permit and naturalization process. Permits should be designed in a fluid fashion, like a constantly evolving fashion, whereby the needs of the economy and the people are always considered, and then permits which suit that situation get designed. And the fees should be such that they fund the whole process, the checks, the health checks and stuff should be incorporated, so that when you pay a fee, you just walk through a door, you get maybe, for instance, your medical checkup. That also drives the health sector, in the sense that the person who has paid an application fee is injecting some money into the system, so that it's not the taxpayers funding it. And in the process, you're employing a few more people to be doing that process. And timeframes should be clear, pathways should be clear, so that we have an equitable system and we avoid animosity. The other issue is that if people are held at limbo, they end up going for these fake documents. The fact that people look for fake documents tells us that these people want to be documented, want to be known. They somehow want to be part of the system, but they just can't access that facility which will document them the right way. Right, fascinating facts. While we talk about immigration, actually people are moving out as well. Where are they going? UK, Australia, United States, New Zealand, Canada, Germany, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Netherlands, and Eswatini. How interesting is that? That's about 8% of the South African population. leaving the country. Well, 8% is going out, 5% is going in, which means, is this population going down? Maybe by 3%? That's thought. Right. Unsolved issues. Inkandla issue, the Gupta issues, state capture, the PPE scandal, Pala mattress money, budget cuts for the police, yet there is increases in budget for VIP protections, socio-economic decline. North of Durban, children are eating sand to fill their stomachs. Is this because of immigrants? Who's responsible here? 60% of tertiary students drop out within the first year. Who's responsible? Nelson Mandela Bay is running out of water. Who is responsible? And there is a publication which was on the Watchdog, published on the 28th of June, entitled A People Betrayed. I'd advise you to take a look at that. It's on YouTube. It will reveal a lot more about what is at play. But in any case, here are the details in a nutshell. So who is responsible for all these problems we're encountering today? Here's a parting shot. I would like to say, Africa unites. Unity is strength, division is weakness. I don't know who coined this saying, but it sounds really true to me. Please don't forget to leave your comments, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching to the end.